What has everybody probably on the call really up in arms is the movement for infectious disease testing, the multiplex nucleic acid amplification test panels for infectious disease testing. We have now seen that those the MACs within the MolDx have created policy that rolls infectious disease testing under the MolDx umbrella. And we saw that the notification period started in March with the effective date on April 17th, 2022. It's been a real wild ride. If I say that three times fast, as far as this policy, it was rolled out quickly, and they meaning the Palmetto MolDx has changed the effective dates, or I would say the implementation, or whether or not they're going to enforce MolDx a couple of times for different MACs. So as of today, for Noridian and CGS, your effective date for this program to roll, if you are testing for infectious disease, and I'm just speaking infectious disease only, the effective date for this policy has changed to June 2nd, 2022. We did see for a short time where they had pushed it out to July 16th. They have recently now pulled that back, and now they're looking at June 2nd. So folks, we have a few weeks. Actually, probably two. I think June 2nd's next week already. And WPS and Palmetto are still effective April 17th. The only thing that's a little bit different here is MolDx has indicated that they will not enforce the Z code application, meaning it needs to be on the claim, until they did not enforce it till May 17th. So that has since passed. So if you are billing for infectious disease, you're part of those 4 MACs, you will be required to have that Z code on your claims if you are submitting. Just a quick rundown of the Z code process. We kind of broke it out. There's 3 separate processes. Number 1, the most important, is to make sure that your lab is registered with the diagnostic exchange. That's really not that difficult. Just a couple of things that we wanted to mention. Only 2 people can have 2 users per lab can access. So we really want to make sure that somebody on your technical team is part of that registration. And then once that registration is complete, it could take up to 10 days to receive your login. So if you haven't started this process yet by registering your lab, it's imperative that you do so. We are at a tight timeline. We will have to hold claims. And so you really need to make sure that your lab is registered. That's step number 1. Again, not super difficult, but it's important that you do it. The next is registering your test. So this is really where we get into the Z code application. You will need to go and register each one of your tests, again, that are part of that MolDx. Right now, infectious disease is the topic of the day. If you're doing other types of testing and you're not sure if it requires a Z code, please let us know and we can guide you on that. But right now, infectious disease, if you are performing infectious disease, you will need to register those tests, and you'll need to add information such as your test ID, title. If you're the performing lab, there's numerous fields that need to be completed. Dr. Milner, I'm going to pick on you for just a moment because, again, I think it's really important for labs to understand that this test registration piece is super imperative that it's done correctly, because if it's not, it could impact our technical assessment. Would you agree?
Yeah, some of the fields are pretty much the same between the two, the test registration and then the technical assessment. So you just want those two to make sure that you're doing them, that your answers match. There's no confusion to the reviewers.
Right. So again, we really are advising that you have a technical partner, someone that that understands the clinical piece of your testing, to even be part of that test registration. Because some of the questions, and again, Dr. Milner will kind of talk through some of that later on in the slides, but some of the questions, it's very important that that information is completed correctly. What will happen is once you register your test, you will receive then that Z code, but that doesn't mean you're done, unfortunately. The Z code, you will get that Z code, but you cannot bill until you complete that technical assessment. So once you get your test registered, they will then review that, and then it will trigger for that technical assessment piece to come back. And that's when the fun starts. So the technical assessment, again, we want to make sure that includes the LDTs. LDT is included if you're doing infectious disease and it's a laboratory developed test, you will be required to get a Z code. All right, so the final slide that I was going to really harp on is the timeline. And again, we wanted to make sure everybody on our webinar understood um, there's a tight timeline here. And I think what I wanted to relay is the difference, I guess, when you register your tests, which will then take up to 2-3 weeks, and they'll come back with a Z code, but it will also trigger the technical assessment process. And I believe, Dr. Milner, we have 15 days to complete that TA. Is that correct?
That's right. You have 15 calendar days, and the email that they send you that gives you the Z code also has like the date that it's due in that email. So there's no confusion about it.
So that's again why I advise that your clinical team should really be a part of the test registration, simply because when you get that technical assessment notification from MolDx, you have 15 days to complete it. And there's a lot of information that is going to be needed in order to complete that technical assessment in time and correctly. And so if it's done correctly and it's submitted timely, again, that narrows down that time between you getting the approval back and hopefully being able to get that priced and proved and paid and being able to submit claims. So again, really the big takeaway here is make sure you understand your timeline, and before you submit for that test registration, be ready so that you can respond for that technical assessment rather quickly. You don't want to be pulling everything together after you get the notification from MolDx on the technical assessment. Dr. Miller, before I move on, anything else you wanted to mention on timeline, or again, just the test registration piece?
So in the next slides, we'll be showing what is included in the test registration process. But again, since the technical assessment template is available on the MolDx website, and we'll give you a link to that, I encourage you to just go and look and see what's required from the technical assessment. So, because like Ann said, there's a lot that has to be documented. And so just being ready for that to occur, the more time you can give yourselves, the better.
Right.